So recently I rewatched Jojo's, and y'all know when y'all rewatch an anime, you start noticing a lot of the things that you missed from the first time you watched it. And that's mainly due to the fact when you're watching the show for the first time, you're mainly focused on the main story, the main plot. So you really can't focus on the little things because you're focused on the big picture. A good example of this is Attack on Titan. When you rewatch Attack on Titan, bro, you pick up on so many things that you missed that you can't believe that you missed. It's insane, bro. Like, the biggest thing for me was that Berta and the castle situation. I don't want to spoil nothing too crazy, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Now, JoJo's is an anime that has a lot of mysteries and anomalies that I see people even trying to solve to this day. Like, we still don't know if bro from part 4 was a real alien or not, bro. We still don't know. Like, I think he was. Like, But the biggest mystery in JoJo's that interests me above all others was the connection between heaven and Requiem. And I know some of y'all probably got your eyebrows up like, Drezu, what are you talking about? Those are two completely separate transformations. They have no connection to each other. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought the same thing. When I first seen those two transformations, I thought they had no connection with each other at all. Like, they was in different parts. I thought there was nothing attaching those two transformations. But when you sit back and look at how they both work, they literally do the exact same thing. Not only do they both transform stands, they give the stands new abilities, and the abilities that they give the stands transpond with the user's desires. Heck, even in both transformations, the user's stand starts disintegrating and melting as they transform. When Jono used the Requiem arrow, he wanted an ability to counter King Crimson, and that's exactly what he got. And Pucci wanted everybody to know their future. He basically wanted everybody to be Captain Hindsight. So when he achieved heaven and got Maiden Heaven had the power to make everybody see their future. Even Polnareff, Silver Chariot Requiem's ability to swap souls could come from his regret for not being able to protect his sister and him wanting to trade places with her that day. Bottom line is, Heaven and Requiem have too much in common to not have a connection with each other at all. And for the longest time, I couldn't find anything that connected the two transformations until I rewatched the show. And after hours of thinking and hours of research, I finally found the missing link between Heaven and Requiem. So I'm gonna be breaking down my explanation into 3 segments just so it could be easier to digest. Pause. Within these 3 segments, I'm basically gonna be trying to prove to y'all that there is a connection between Heaven and Requiem, and I'm gonna reveal what that connection actually is. Before we get it started, make sure y'all hit the like button, subscribe, join the empire. Helps me out, helps the channel out, helps the channel grow. I appreciate the support. And without further ado, let's get into it. Now, starting things off, let's talk about the biggest hater in anime. Let's talk about Dio. Now, we all know that Dio, probably with the help from Enya, created the Heaven plan and gave it to Pucci. Now, it's still a big mystery on how he actually came up with the Heaven plan. We don't know every step it took for him to come to the conclusion like, oh, we can do this. Like, this is something that can be done. We don't know the exact steps. But what I can tell you for sure is that through the process, there was a lot of experimentation. Basically, what I'm saying is, for Dio to come up with the Heaven plan, he either had to have been experimenting on himself or other stand users. There is no Heaven plan without experimentation. Dio would need to see what makes stands tick, how stands work, in order to even come up, to even have the idea to make the Heaven plan. Him and Enya was probably taking innocent people, turning them into stand users, and, you know, experimenting on them. You know what I'm saying? They're doing a whole lot of hating and cruel things. Now, let me ask you a question. If you was in JoJo's, right, you know, hitting the poses, you know what I'm saying, fighting villains, or being a villain, you feel me, whatever floats your boat, right? If you was in JoJo's You pierce yourself with the arrow, you get a stand, right? You have a box full of arrows and you want to increase your power. You're like, yo, how can I take this power above what it is right now? What is literally the two next things you're doing? You see that this arrowhead just gave you all this power, right? You will probably try to pierce yourself with another arrowhead to see if it would increase your power. And when that didn't work, the next thing you will probably do is try to pierce your stand with the arrow to see what it would do. And I know it sounds like I'm trying to make it more obvious than what it actually is, but remember, we're looking at this as if we was in Dio's position, right? We have the source of the power, we have the arrows, and us, we want to increase our power. We want to become more powerful. So if I have the source of the power and I want to become more powerful, it's only natural that I would try to pierce myself again with the arrow, or pierce my stand with the arrow, or pierce the wall with the arrow. I'm trying to do anything with the arrow to see what makes it tick. So this is what I'm getting at. Like I said, for Dio to have made the heaven plan, he had to have been experimenting on himself and others in order to even come up with it in the first place. Now, while he was experimenting with stands, I find it very, very hard to believe that he didn't pierce his stand with the arrow at some point. Dio piercing his stand with the arrow would actually make a lot of sense, because it would explain how he knew stands could even evolve in the first place. Like, there's no way Dio could have come up with a plan that evolved stands without knowing stands could evolve. That's like leveling a Ditto to 100 and expecting it to evolve, not knowing if it could or not. But the main point is, I truly believe that Dio activated the world Requiem, but couldn't control it. So before we continue talking about Dio and the world Requiem, we gotta go and discuss what we know about the Requiem transformation. Specifically, we need to talk about the people's stands who actually went through the Requiem transformation, which is Polnareff and Jojo. Polnareff actually activated Requiem twice. The first time he did it is when he dropped the arrow behind the desk. He tried to get it, he couldn't reach, so he used Silver Chariot to get it. Silver Chariot got pricked, and then he turned it to Silver Chariot Requiem. And the second time he did it is when he was going up against Diavolo, and he had no other choice but to try to activate his Requiem stand. And in both instances, he didn't have control over Silver Chariot Requiem. He didn't have any control. He couldn't control it. The stand went rogue, started walking. Coolest walk in anime, I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, he can't control his stand. Now when Jojo activated Requiem, he was going up against Diavolo. Bucciarati had sacrificed himself to give the arrow to Jojo. Jojo pierced his stand with the arrow, and Gold Experience Requiem was born. Now I know what y'all might be thinking. Drezu, why are you telling us this? We already know how Jojo and Polnareff use Requiem. We already know this. Why are you telling us? Looking at those two, right, and how they both had different results when they used Requiem, it brings up a very key question that I needed to answer in order to even make this theory. In order to even have a glimmer of a chance of making this theory, I needed to answer this question. Now, we know Polnareff is a veteran stand user, to say the least. You know, we know him from Stardust Crusader. He's fought a whole bunch of stand users. He helped in fighting Dio. Polnareff has been around the block, to say the least. He was a powerful stand user with a strong moral compass. So why wasn't he qualified to control his Requiem stand? What makes it so that Jojo can control his Requiem stand, but Polnareff can't? And the answer is kind of obvious. Thinking logically, the only reason Jojo can control his Requiem, but Polnareff can't, is because Jojo is a Joestar. We all know that Joestars are special, to say the least. They're a special bloodline. They have strong ties with the arrows and the stands. Joestars are special. We all know this, right? I don't think they're the only special race in the show. That's for another video though. That's for a whole nother video. But bottom line, Joestars are special. And the bloodline being so connected to the stand arrows, it would make perfect sense why Jojo was able to control his Requiem stand. Now, going back to Dio, like I said, at some point or another, while Dio was experimenting on stands, he pierced his stand with the arrow. The world Requiem was born, but just like Poneriff, he couldn't control it and had to take the arrow back from his stand quickly. And I know what y'all saying, right? Because I just explained how in order to control your Requiem stand, you needed to be a Joestar. And Dio has Jonathan's body, so technically he's a Joestar. So why wouldn't he be able to control his Requiem stand? Now, even though being a Joestar is a qualification in controlling your Requiem stand, it's not the only one. I believe there's 2 qualifications in order to control a Requiem stand, right? First one, being a Joestar. We already said that. Now, the second one is a little bit hard to believe. It's a little bit convoluted, and it will make more sense once we get to the third segment. But basically, in order to control your Requiem stand, the second qualification is you have to be a good guy. This is the conclusion I came up with while trying to figure out why Jono qualifies for Requiem, but Dio doesn't. They're both stand users and they're both Joestars, so I had to find out what was the biggest thing that differentiates the two. And the biggest difference I could find was that Jono is a good, righteous person and Dio is an evil hater. Remember, yes, Jono is in the mafia, but he wanted to become the leader of the mafia to stop all the bad stuff, the drug trafficking and stuff that the mafia was actually doing. And when you sit there and watch the entire part, you start noticing that Jono is actually a passionate dude. He's actually a good guy, while Dio is a bad guy. Or another way we could say it is, Jono was righteous enough to be chosen by the arrow, and Dio definitely wasn't. So third and final segment. Now this is going to be the most important one because it's going to connect a lot of the information we gathered, and with that connected information is going to help us solve for the missing link between Heaven and Requiem. Now let's start this off by talking about Poochie and the Heaven Plan. Now the Heaven Plan is actually pretty simple to explain. Poochie needed 36 evil souls to be absorbed by Dio's bone, which will make the green baby. Then he needed to absorb the green baby, then go to the coordinates latitude 28 and longitude 80, and then he would achieve heaven. Now there was always one step in the Heaven Plan that really interested me. It interested me because I never completely understood it. The part of the Heaven Plan I'm talking about is the absorption of the 36 evil souls. Now I've always had this question about this part, but why do the souls need to be evil? In all the research I did about the Heaven Plan, it's always specified evil souls. Even in the Eyes of Heaven games, I know it's not canon, but even in that game, Dio needed to absorb 36 evil souls to achieve heaven. So now I ask again, why evil souls? I thought about this for a long time, and this is actually the foundation to this entire theory. This is actually what sparked this entire theory. Now I need y'all to keep up with me because we're about to connect a lot of information that we gathered to answer this question. So in the earlier segments, we concluded that Dio, while he was experimenting with stands, at some point pierced his stand with the arrow. The world Requiem was born, but he couldn't control it. Dio realizes that he cannot control this power. Like I said in the second segment, there's 2 requirements to be able to control a Requiem stand. 1, you have to be a Joestar, and 2, you have to be a good person. So in order for his stand to reach this ascended form and him being actually able to control it, he made an alternative method to Requiem, which was the Heaven Plan. And the Heaven Plan as an alternative method will allow evil to achieve Requiem. This would explain why evil souls are required in the Heaven Plan. You need evil souls because the person who's doing the Heaven Plan is evil themselves. Now, we don't know how good you actually have to be worthy for the arrow, but for the people who fall under the arrow's morality meter, they require the 36 evil souls to evolve their stand. So Poochie, just like Dio, would be another person who wasn't worthy of Requiem. That means the Heaven Plan was essentially a way for stands to evolve without the will or influence of the arrow. It was a way for the unworthy to become worthy. It was a way for the wicked to become wonderful. It was a way to achieve Requiem through heaven. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, man. I know this is a different type of video, you know what I'm saying? I ain't really do a video like this ever, for me. Before I end it, you know what I'm saying, this part gonna be unedited, uncut, but you know what I'm saying, I'm just gonna be talking, right? So I know some of y'all do think that you know, Made in Heaven and See Moon are two completely different stands, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, Requiems, they're like, you know, the better upgraded version of a stand, but people regard Made in Heaven and See Moon as two completely different. Now, this is something I was thinking about a lot, and it was like the biggest thing against my theory, but then I thought about it, right? And I thought about Polnareff, right? Silver Chariot and Silver Chariot Requiem look completely different. The only thing they have in common is the color. That is it. Silver Chariot Requiem doesn't even have Silver Chariot sword. The what you call those? The rapar, something like that. I forget what the sword is called. You don't even have that. So it's not hard to believe that, oh, See Moon and Made in Heaven are actually connected. It's just when he did the Heaven, you know what I'm saying, transformation, it just completely changed See Moon, like how the Requiem transformation completely changed Silver Chariot Requiem. You feel me? Just wanted to add that a little bit because I already know y'all gonna be in the comments talking crazy and but yeah, that's pretty much it. Drizzle Empire out. I'm gonna see ya.